My friends. Chris Marcus here with you for the StockPulse Market Brief on Tuesday, September 25th. So far, a little bit of a quiet day in the markets to this point. We can see the Dow Jones closing at 26,492, S&P 500 at 2915, the NASDAQ at 8,007, crossing the $8,000 mark today. So the stock market continues to rally on. Over in Europe, we can see the DAX at 12,374. In Asia, the Nikkei at 23,940 and the Shanghai Index 2781. Quick look at the oil market, up another 21 cents today, 72.29. Interesting to see oil has been somewhat consistently trading higher in the recent sessions. And certainly with all of the inflationary events happening in the world right now, certainly keeping an eye on oil would be a wise thing to do. And we'll be doing that on the Market Brief for you every day. So hit that subscribe button and you can stay tuned. Over in the crypto market, as you can see, Bitcoin down to 63.97. Ripple taking it on the chin again today, down another 13% over the last 24 hours. And Litecoin checking in at 56.58. To our all-important 10-year Treasury in the U.S., it's up at 309 today, has climbed steadily higher over the past week and a half. You see on the chart here, it looks like it got as high as 3.11. Again, we have the Fed's two-day meeting. I'll be making a separate video about a couple thoughts about the Fed, certainly all that's going to be happening. Market pretty much expecting another rate increase. Many expecting a fourth rate increase in the December meeting. So it will be interesting to see what sort of guidance the Fed offers in their statement tomorrow. Certainly, we will keep an eye on how the gold and silver markets react. Not a lot of movement. Silver up about 27 cents today at $14.51. Gold back over the $1,200 mark per ounce at $12.0170. So certainly, often we do see the metals move on these Fed announcements. And be interesting to see how it all goes down tomorrow. Certainly with the metals trading near the cost of production, still seems like a good buying level to me. So again, that's not legal licensed financial advice, but just my opinion on that part. And why I feel that way and have felt that way for a while. Again, here we even have Robert Shiller, Nobel Prize economist. You may remember, I believe he was Irrational Exuberance, and Shiller is noticing that these are crazy times. Does mention the market still could go up for years, which I agree with. I don't necessarily think it's going to be going up for years, especially in the face of rising interest rates, but perhaps what he's pointing out, or what I would extrapolate from what he says here, is that is the challenge with these types of markets where you don't necessarily know the timing and things can go on longer than would seem rational. And so we'll see, but interesting to note. I've seen a bunch of mainstream sites like CNBC showing more warnings about trouble in the economy, which seems a different tone than just cheering the stock market. Again, why did the Dow fall today? Erasing earlier gains after tough talk from the Trump administration, according to CNBC. Again, I point this out, A, because it's the latest news and whether that's really a big event, but more so that I mentioned yesterday how back last week, you heard the market was rallying. They said trade fears, no problem, everything's coming together. Does not appear that was the case. And here we have China saying Trump administration is a trade bully as new tariffs take effect. So while I factor in that at the end, this is a negotiation, and it could be tomorrow they announce all the tariffs are off and they're going to play nicely together, yet at least based on the information being presented publicly, which I do get the feeling is a bit different from what is actually happening behind the scenes, yet from what we're being presented with, certainly the trade war is still on for now. Quick story I wanted to pass along here on Zero Hedge. German regulator orders Deutsche Bank to take action to prevent money laundering, with Europe still reeling over recent revelations of Danske Bank's 234 billion money laundering scandal. Another target emerged, and regulators ordered Deutsche Bank to improve its controls. Certainly, Deutsche Bank already on shaky ground to begin with, so anything that could further exacerbate the situation there, worth keeping an eye on. And also, just to the degree, let's call this unofficial, but in a lot of the interviews I've been listening to, or even folks I've interviewed, I have been hearing a lot more lately about some of the money laundering activity that many of these banks are alleged to be involved in. We'll be bringing on some experts who can speak more eloquently and have more in-depth knowledge of that. But I have heard that a lot lately. So just interesting that here is one data point, and certainly I think in the near future there are going to be some issues in the banking sector, whether it's the balance sheets or some of the things they're involved in, but just passing that along. And then the last story here, bonds dollar dump as Mario Draghi warns of vigorous inflation pickup. Even the central bankers are starting to notice inflation at this point. I would assert that this has a lot to do with the negative interest rate policy the Eurozone has been running. If you factored in a more accurate inflation metric in the US, I believe real interest rates are negative by quite a bit here as well. And so we'll see what happens tomorrow with the Fed meeting. They're going to claim to fight it, yet the problem is that the higher the rates go, more pressure that puts on all of these things that we've been looking at, and the stock, bond, and real estate bubbles. So with that said, all eyes will be on the Fed tomorrow. And lastly, of course, as always, this video is sponsored by Miles Franklin. If you are interested in purchasing precious metals, you can visit milesfranklin.com or call 1-800-822-8080. And with that said, that is today's StockPulse Market Brief. Hit that thumbs up button. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you again tomorrow. Thanks.